You're listening to Murder Not Murdering with Erin,
and Autumn,
a true crime podcast about murder and murdering.
but we are not murderers.
All right, everybody, we're back. And Autumn, take it away.
You know I can't. You know it's not in me. I just awkwardly sit here waiting for you to say, and we're back. And then I'm always like, yay. Oh, that's me. I need to say something.
You're back as well.
Yeah, this is true. When you say we, it's you and I.
It is, shockingly. Autumn, did you get any suggestions for what we would our listeners?
I got 2 suggestions.
I got one.
Tell them what yours was.
Mine was Not Murdies.
Not Murdies, which was cute.
Yeah, that's cute. That's
We can
cute.
put that up on the poll.
Yep.
Mine was True Crimers.
Oh, that was you. That was just you voting for that.
Promise it wasn't.
Lies.
It was probably someone just messing with us, though, being like, well, you said it enough times.
Now it's our thing.
And then the other one was the Seattle Sleuthers. And I'm like, but that doesn't,
Ooh,
I mean, that's cute.
It's cute, but it sounds like another podcast. I swear there
Yes.
is a Seattle Sleuthers.
I'm sure there is. So
Yeah.
we'll put some polls up. We'll put those 3 up there.
This will be
And-
something we're going to work on.
Yes.
We're workshopping it.
Yes, because obviously we can't use True Crimers.
No.
We just can't. It's so silly.
I mean, but we could.
I mean, honestly, if we say it enough, I think that it might just become our identity.
We said it like, I don't know, 37 times in the last episode.
It's true.
So I don't know.
I mean, we could be the M&Mers. I said that, and then the minute it came out of my mouth, I was like, that's probably
Yeah,
not.
hard no.
It
Hard no on
kind
that
of
one.
sounds like we might, the M&M, kind of like the rapper. Like we're
that is not-
hardcore fans.
No, I immediately thought of the candy, but your mind went to Eminem the rapper. Okay.
Yes, I like Slim Shady.
You heard it here, folks.
Millennial.
Yeah,
I can't help it.
I'm not a huge Eminem fan. There's a lot of really good rappers out there that I love, but I'm not to say that in the 2000s I didn't own an album. I for sure did.
Man, his new one that just came out, I listened to it a lot, more than I should probably admit.
Wow. Well, you did it on a public forum. Mhm.
So now you guys know what my playlist is like. Don't ask me to show you my Spotify Wrapped.
Yeah. I don't know. I DJ on Tuesdays and I do a hip hop night. So I, of course, bring back a lot of the 2000s fun stuff that are like right in my heart wheelhouse. You know, a lot of Mary J. Blige, a lot of things like that. But I really love Kendrick Lamar. Obsessed with Kendrick Lamar and Doechii. Like,
So I love
heavy.
Kendrick Lamar as well. And Eminem and him are kind of on the same wavelength when it comes to bringing
To
out
what?
some pedophiles, let's just say. Like P. Diddy, Eminem goes for his jugular on his new
that's
album.
right. That's right.
And I am here for it, won't lie.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we also like to go after pedophiles. Speaking
This is
of,
true. Mhm. They should not be roaming this world.
absolutely not. So this episode is coming out on St. Patrick's Day.
Which also happens to be my brother's birthday. So I'm going to say happy birthday, Cameron.
Happy birthday, Cameron. We are celebrating with speaking about murders.
Yes, which I will say when I was younger, I wanted to do to him.
Yeah. No, I witnessed it. It was the scariest thing I've ever seen in my whole life.
Yeah, we used to fight a lot.
I thought me and my sister were bad. And then I came back from your house and I was like, Mom, Kylie and I have nothing on Autumn and Cameron.
I mean, he was the world's worst and most annoying brother that ever existed.
I think I think he punched you in the boob and then you punched him in the face all in the span of 2 seconds
Probably.
while hurling every insult I've ever heard in my whole life.
Probs. I mean, that
Yeah.
sounds legit.
Yeah,
That sounds legit.
It was legit. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, he was annoying. But I have to say, we get along really well now as adults.
Good. That's good.
But
you haven't
when
punched
we were
each
younger,
other.
No. But when we were younger, man, did we fight. He was so annoying.
Yeah, I mean, he's a little brother, right?
Yes. I mean, he was doing his job too good.
Yeah.
It was
excellent
awful.
at it. I remember when we would go sit in front of the computer and we were using instant messenger and talking to people in chat rooms. Sorry, moms.
I mean.
And he would keep coming into the room and you're like, get out of here now.
I mean, when you say talking to people in chat rooms, you make it sound like we were doing something nefarious, but we weren't. I think they were like in sync chat rooms and stuff like that.
I mean, most likely, but
we were not doing anything super weird.
Autumn was selling drugs on the black market. It's not a big deal. I sold organs. It's fine.
This is also hilarious. Erin likes to spin it like I was the bad influence when she's telling her mother things, but in reality, that was not the case.
Sure, that's what it was.
Okay.
It's not my fault. I'm the golden child. I did nothing wrong.
That's her spiel, but man, that is
Autumn
not true.
Dragging me to parties and making me drink and dance.
Oh my God, what?
Dancing on tables. It was like a whole thing.
More like Autumn was your DD.
And yelling at me to get off the table.
Yes.
No, okay. This has gone too far. This has all gone too far.
Yes, a little too far. But, I mean, we just had to take a trip down memory lane while she's like, we were in chat rooms. I'm like, yeah, like little nerds on NSYNC forums and stuff.
Do you know what's crazy is somewhere out there's like a shit ton of disposable camera photos of us partying at parties. And I don't remember ever developing them, or I mean, they could be the other people had them because back in the day we had those or digital cameras, guys. We did not have cameras on our phones because we elderly.
Yes, we're millennials, so that wasn't really a thing. So
elder millennials, which you know what I hate is geriatric millennials,
but let's not go there.
But my back hurts, so we here.
But yes, we did not have phone cameras.
No.
It was not a thing.
'Twas not.
We all carried little digital cameras with us.
Yep, we sure did. So on with things.
Yes.
Onward. I go first this time, and I'm going to stick with an Irish theme as it is St. Patrick's Day, and this is going to be an Irish murder case. So
Erin, go bra.
Here, oh Jesus Christ! I knew you were going to say something like that.
I was waiting.
Not like I haven't heard it my whole life. Erin, go braless was a very popular phrase.
What?
Yep.
Okay, I never heard that.
People thought it was so clever.
Not clever.
Not clever.
I agree.
Okay. So I'm going to do a quick disclaimer, though, on mine, because this case does involve descriptions of domestic violence, and that could be hard for some of our listeners to hear. If you do not feel comfortable, then feel free to skip ahead to Autumn's case. And in a complete 180, I also wanted to tell you about fairy forts. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So it's important to my case.
Okay, I'm here.
So fairy forts in Ireland are the remains of stone circles, ring forts, hill forts, and other circular prehistoric dwellings in Ireland. They are part of many folk tales about supernatural events. And as of 1991, there were between 30 and 40,000 identifiable fairy forts in Ireland's countryside, the oldest of them possibly dating back as early as 600 BC. As it is St. Patrick's Day, I'm going to stick with an Irish story covering the case of the last witch burned in Ireland, a story of fairies, folklore, hysteria, and murder. Bridget Boland was born February 19th, 1869, in Ballivadley, County Tipperary, Ireland, to Patrick Boland and Bridget Keating. She went to school, then moved to Clonmel to become a dressmaker's apprentice at age 20. It was then that she met 27-year-old Michael Cleary, where he worked as a cooper, which is a person who makes casks or barrels. I had to look that one up.
I didn't know what that was either.
They must have been infatuated with each other because they got married only after a month of meeting in a Roman Catholic church on August 6, 1887. After getting married, Michael stayed in Clonmel to work, and Bridget moved back with her parents. It wasn't necessarily uncommon at the time that a man would live elsewhere to work and send money home. While living at home, Bridget cared for her ailing mother. During this period of living apart, Bridget's independence grew, with keeping a flock of her own chickens and selling eggs to her neighbors. This was somewhat unusual for the era and location to be a professional woman making her own money. She also obtained a Singer sewing machine that was state-of-the-art at the time. She became a dress and hat maker. Following Bridget's mother's death, the Clearys found themselves responsible for her elderly father, Patrick Boland. Following the death of Bridget's mother, the Clearys found themselves responsible for her elderly father, Patrick Boland, who had been a laborer in his youth, and that qualified him for housing. Michael moved back in with them into a laborer's cottage. In fact, it was the best one in the village, and Michael set up his own coopering business. Bridget and Michael are now becoming well known in their village because they're prospering in their respective businesses. Bridget was noted to be very beautiful and always wore the most fashionable outfits that she designed. And that stood out among the more common clothing worn by the everyday folks. The villagers did gossip a bit about them, mentioning Bridget's independence, and despite their 8 years of marriage, the couple had no children. Now, we don't know what the reason was for this, and it could have been a number of factors, but it was a little out of place when women were expected to be housewives and baby makers at the time. There was also a rumor that Bridget was having an affair. It was said that Michael didn't like his wife taking the eggs alone. And one of the rumors was that she would take the eggs and also go to a neighbor's house for a liaison. I suspect that Michael didn't like her.
Eggs are sexy.
Obvi. I suspect that he didn't like her being so independent. She didn't have to rely on him for any income. They also said that while delivering eggs, villagers observed her cutting through the fairy forts and even hanging out in them. Disturbing the ground was very frowned upon, and it was thought that it could cause a sort of curse. She seemed unbothered by this myth, probably because she was literate, and that is uncommon at this time in that area, and she had attended all her years of schooling. So it's thought that she may not have believed in fairies because of her extended education.
Okay, that makes sense.
So on one particular frigid day, while delivering the eggs, she cut through the fairy fort as she had done many times, and when she got home, she was frozen. She couldn't warm up. The next morning, she had fallen ill. It was so concerning that her elderly father walked 4 miles to get the doctor.
Wow.
Unfortunately, the doctor told her father that he would not be able to come to see her for a week. 7 days.
Well, that's a long time, especially if she was ill enough for him to make that trek.
Exactly. It is said that Michael walked twice to urge the doctor to see his wife sooner. Finally, the doctor comes and prescribes medicine that is listed for treatment for a slight bronchitis and nervous excitement. And with medicine and rest, she is likely to recover. But it's also the late 1800s, so we have to see how she does because, even a healthy woman can get sick and die. Of dysentery. No, I'm just kidding.
What is this, the Oregon Trail?
Yup. Michael, however, is not worried about the sickness because he didn't believe his wife was sick at all. He believed she was, in fact, a changeling. You see, in the 19th century, in Ballyvadley, locals believed if you walk too close to a fairy circle, you might get snatched by a fairy. They would often take young children or pretty women. In place of the person, the fairies would leave behind a changeling, a fairy resembling the stolen person. often a changeling, would be identified by their strange actions, falling sick, and looking slightly different from the human they had replaced. And here's a fun fact. A lot of those accused of being changelings were more educated women. They were successful women. They were empowered women. And they could be described as women who didn't necessarily fall in line with their husbands.
I see a trend here.
Mm-hmm. A way we may be more familiar with this is with the witch hunts or witch trials that we've seen over the centuries. If a woman was beautiful, then it must be witchcraft. They're using that to seduce men. If she was defiant, then a demon was possessing her or a spell was cast on her. If she just kept her to herself or maybe practiced herbal medicine too well, she must be a witch. This is a tale as old as time, and the tale is called patriarchy.
I actually really love that you said that.
Well, it's facts.
I agree. Wholeheartedly, I agree.
Not a whole lot of men witches out there, just saying. Okay. By the way, men convicted back in the day. There were some. I'm not saying there weren't, but overall, it was women. Anyway.
They also didn't call them witches. They had a different name for them.
Warlocks.
Warlocks, that's right.
Yeah. I know my witchcraft. Okay. As Bridget was known to be around the fairy forts and to be a beautiful woman, she was obviously more susceptible to this happening. Michael said that one of the ways he was sure she had been taken away by the fairies and now was a changeling was because she actually appeared more beautiful than before. It's been described as perhaps he felt that she had maybe lost some weight due to the sickness, and so she was thinner in her face. And that might have been the reason why he thought she was more beautiful. That's also shitty, but
that is very shitty.
Or maybe the fever made her look dewy or glowy. We're not exactly sure what was the reason she was more beautiful, but those are some things people have suggested. Then he also believed that she was 2 inches taller.
Oh.
Remember, changelings were known to not be exact copies of the people that they were replacing. And because of all of this, Michael was so convinced that he reported his suspicions to the doctor and told all the family members, including her father. A friend and local storyteller, Jack Dunn, told him that he needed to act fast, or the fairies would keep his wife forever. Local storytellers were like historians and were well regarded in their villages. Fearing the worst and in preparations, they called a priest who visited after the doctor, and he administered last rites, even though, by his account, he did not think she was going to die. From almost all the witnesses and the doctor, it sounds like Bridget had a bad flu, but again, 1800s, even a healthy woman could die from the flu. The priest left, and that's when Jack Dunn said it was time for Michael to call on the fairy doctor / herbalist, Dennis Gainey. I also just love using the phrase fairy doctor. He came to see her, and he confirmed the worst. She is a changeling. To treat her, they would need to mix new milk, which is fresh from the udder, and a combination of herbs to make a tea. Fairies crave milk, and this tea should coax that fairy out. Fucking Michael, gives her this tea and only the tea. He does not give her the medicine that was prescribed by the doctor. Now, the village is all abuzz, and rumors of what is happening to Bridget spreads wildly. Several family members come quickly to her bedside, mostly menfolk to oversee all of this, and then Joanna, her cousin, Joanna's 10-year-old daughter, and Joanna's mother, Mary. They began to interrogate the changeling. So poor Bridget is so sick in bed, denied her prescribed medicine from her doctor, and was getting questioned over and over again. Then Michael and the other men pin her down and force feed her the milk concoction. A villager outside overheard a man's voice from inside the cottage yelling, Take it, witch, or I'll kill you.
Oh, shit.
The ritual continued and escalated with the men throwing their own urine on her.
Oh, my God. Was that part of, like, the ritual?
This is part of the ritual that they believed would get rid of this changeling. It gets worse when they carry her frail, urine-soaked body to the fireplace, holding her over a low flame. People began to gather outside the home, hearing men yell things like, "Go away! Be gone in the name of God! Are you Bridget Boland, wife of Michael Cleary?" And they could also hear her screaming.
Oh, that is heartbreaking.
Unfortunately, the fear of the folklore was so strong that they did not intervene on her behalf. After all of this trauma that they inflicted on this woman, they finally deemed her cured. But they would still have to vanquish the fairy or evil spirits from the house, so they called upon the local priest to finish the task. The next day, Bridget gets up and is urged to get dressed in her fashionable clothing. Though she's not fully over her sickness, she tries to go about her day like it was a normal one. Underneath the surface, though, Michael was still not convinced that this was his wife. The family is still around, and Bridget's cousin Joanna makes her a cup of tea. Bridget asks for milk to go with it, remembering that the fairies will crave milk. This further spurs Michael's paranoia. Fairies have an aversion to bread, likely due to the salt that's in it. So Michael insists she eats 3 pieces of bread with jam and proclaims who she is 3 times. The family is witnessing this while Bridget is trying to eat all of this bread and repeating her name. She turns to her husband and says, "Your mother used to go with the fairies, and that's why you think I'm going with them." The phrase "away with the fairies" refers to someone who's always distracted, in a dream world, or out of one's mind, kind of out of touch with reality. Now, that really upsets Michael, emasculating him in front of his family and friends. Now he starts screaming at her as he's asking her to say her name over and over again, convinced she is the changeling. He asks her again, and she still hasn't finished that last piece of bread, so he forces it down her throat. He is irate, losing it, and even described as deranged. He yelled, "If you won't take it, then you will go." Then he throws her to the ground, climbs atop her, holds her by her throat, attempting to make her swallow the bread. His rage is escalating as he grabs a hot poker from the fire, holds it over her mouth, not quite touching her lips. Then he rips her clothes off, and all that's left was her chemise. He uses the fire poker to light it on fire. Then he douses her in oil from a lamp. Her cousin James Kennedy yelled out, "For the love of God, don't burn your wife." "She's not my wife," he replied. "She's an old deceiver set in place of my wife." Michael is screaming that he's not going to live with a witch and that his wife will return on a white horse when the changeling is gone. Sadly, Bridget dies on that floor. All who were there claimed they attempted to stop him, but he barred their way by throwing more oil on her to speed up the process. After she died, he locked the family in the house with her charred body and went to go dig a shallow grave. He and Patrick locked them in there with her body. Imagine in a tiny cottage with
your
a human
deceased
body.
relative?
Well, and Autumn,
Mutilated.
there's smells and all of that from, yes.
Horrible.
So then he and Patrick Kennedy, her cousin, go and bury her near the house. After that, Michael waited 3 consecutive nights for Bridget to arrive on that white horse brought back to him by the fairies at the fairy fort. Obviously, she does not show up. Now rumors are flying through the village about what took place. Some said that they saw her walking in a field a few nights ago with 2 men wearing a white nightdress. And a lot of other people were talking about how she was missing. We obviously know she wasn't seen in a field because she had passed away at that point. But this is when the news of all of these stories pique the interest of the Royal Irish Constabulary. And then they begin an inquiry into her whereabouts. The manhunt for her took a week until a local priest witnessed Michael praying at the church for Bridget, and Jack Dunn, his friend, told him about what had transpired. Official orders came and an extensive search of the area surrounding the home began. Very soon, they found the remains of Bridget Cleary. They immediately arrested 8 people, including Michael, 4 of Bridget's cousins, Patrick, Michael, James, and William Kennedy, Patrick Boland, her father, Mary Kennedy, and Jack Dunn. The case interests the media and is spreading everywhere across Europe, North America, and Mexico. And that is insane for the times because usually a local Irish story case would end up in Irish newspapers, maybe across Britain, but for sure not in Mexico and North America. It is believed that the British pushed this story in order to show how the Irish people were uncouth and simple, because they believed all these superstitious stories and folklore. So they should continue ruling over them to help them. That was sarcasm. They absolutely were being assholes about it.
Right?
Some British and American newspapers used anti-Roman Catholic or anti-Irish headlines. Cleary's burning was a gripping news story, and it featured an attractive young woman, hints of infidelity, echoes of witchcraft and fairies, a violent death, a culprit in her own husband, a family conspiracy, and a cast of supporting supernatural characters such as herb and fairy doctors. This was seductive to the public. They began legal proceedings, which caused a media storm. There were photographs, testimonies, and even Bridget's body brought before the judge and jury. That's right.
Oh.
They brought her body.
Oh, man.
They also brought all the arrestees to the court as witnesses and also prosecuting them for the torture they inflicted on her before Michael committed murder. It was Joanna and her 10-year-old daughter's testimony and the evidence that brought back a conviction of guilty. They are sentenced by their involvement. Patrick Kennedy got 5 years of hard labor for his part in disposing of the body. Michael Kennedy got 6 months. James Kennedy, 18 months. William Kennedy, 18 months. Patrick Boland, her father, only got 6 months due to his age. And Jack Dunn got 3 years for perpetuating the fairy theory and rituals. They did not charge the women that were involved. Michael Cleary does not get charged with murder.
What?
He gets charged with manslaughter because he did not believe that he was killing his wife and that she was actually an evil fairy changeling. Michael gets sentenced to 20 years hard labor, which means prison and work. Somehow, he gets off in 15 years, then immigrates to Montreal, Canada, and starts a new life. Some say he really believed in this fairy theory, while many others believed he suffered a temporary psychosis. Others have speculated that Bridget was having an affair, and this was his way of ending the marriage. Or maybe her modern way of living was too much for him, and he created this elaborate scheme because he was much more educated than those around him. So he created a somewhat mass hysteria. Bridget's body was laid to rest in Clanine Cemetery by the constabulary, as many of her family members were imprisoned at the time. Though this is a changeling case where fire was used in a ritualistic way, the newspapers referred to it as a witch burning. Linking the Cleary case to the burning of witches during the early modern period was a clever journalistic ploy to attract readers, somewhat similar to what I did at the very beginning of my story. Do you see what I did there?
You're so clever.
I know, I wanted to prove a point. In the popular imagination, witches were always burnt to death, just as Bridget had been. The witch burning case headline was far more catchy than fairy burning. For such reasons, her story has endured and still captures the popular imagination today. There is also a popular Irish rhyme sung by school children in Tipperary that goes, "Are you a witch? Are you a fairy? Or are you the wife of Michael Cleary?" I think that British was an independent, beautiful, and intelligent woman who was killed by a weak man who couldn't stand to see her succeed. Both witch hunts and changelings were meant as a means of punishing women who stepped outside of the societal norms. Women, like Bridget Cleary, and it's a tragedy that she did not get a chance to live out her full life. It would have been amazing to see what she could have accomplished. My sources were the podcast Who Did What Now, RTE.ie, the Irish Times, Hidden History, Wikipedia, Irish History, Secret Ireland, and Atlas Obscura.
That one was
So sad.
so sad. Like this beautiful, educated woman
Who was
fell
making it
ill.
on her own.
Yes.
Making it on her own.
Well, and her husband, she loved her husband. So I don't know. That is
I mean,
awful.
We don't know how much she loved her husband, but we
No,
do
that's
know
true.
that they were together.
But there was no proof of an affair.
Well, a lot of people said it. And she would cut through one of the fairy forts to get to a specific person's house. So there was that theory. My thing is, I'm not sure how I feel about whether Michael created this whole scheme to get all of the family and the townsfolk and all the people that believe in these fairies and did all of this to essentially be able to murder his wife, because they were Roman Catholic. They were not getting out of their marriage.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Right.
there was no way out. And they didn't have any children, you know, and some speculate maybe with him being away, or maybe there was infertility, or possibly they didn't want to have children. And that's okay too, but not of that time, you know?
Right.
So we're not sure what the real story is there. The only person that knows that is Michael. And then there was the theory of the temporary psychosis, which people talked about a lot, that maybe he had a brief moment where he was just,
I mean, if this
not in
wasn't
his right mind.
calculated, then he for sure was having psychosis.
Well, and then created that whole hysteria between all of the family members that they gathered at the house, all of the villagers. I mean, there were so many people involved. They have now the fairy doctor there, and they have, you know, Jack Dunn, who's this storyteller, and storytellers were historians. They didn't write a whole lot of things down. You know, the only reason why I know what age Bridget was or when she was married is because those things were written in Bibles. You know, and there were some records on census, but you know, they didn't keep a lot of records, so the storytellers would tell the stories and travel to different towns and villages to teach people of their history.
Right. Well, a lot of things, like you said, were verbal because some people were illiterate and they weren't
That was a
writing
huge part.
things
Yes.
down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know, and that was just common for the times, you know, and a lot of times the folks that lived in the more rural areas believed in, you know, fully believed into the myths of fairies and folklore.
Yes, I mean, there was an official fairy doctor, so clearly this was something that mass majority of the people believed in.
Mm-hmm. But also the fact that a lot of the people that this seems to afflict, whether it was the witches or whether it was for fairies, seem to be women. Beautiful, smart women that were forging their way ahead. And then they also said it affected children, which is thought to believe a way to explain when children fell ill or passed away. So they could say, oh, well, they went with the fairies, or the fairies took them, instead of having to deal with the sad reality of what may have happened.
Man, that is tragic.
I know. I thought I'd bring us real down on St. Patrick's Day. But I was like, I'm going to stick with an Irish story.
Yes.
All right. I'm passing the torch to you, Autumn.
Mine doesn't get any better.
I didn't think it would.
Ironically, it is also to do with St. Patrick's Day.
We've got a theme, folks.
Which, admittedly, we did know.
Yeah, we did plan that.
I told her, I said, hey, I'm going to do a story about that involves St. Patrick's Day. And she's like, okay, me too. Yeah. And it's because we know that we're releasing this episode on St. Patrick's Day, so we thought we'd make it a little bit special.
Yeah, I don't know anything about Autumn's case, and she doesn't know anything about mine. We just know that there's a theme.
So, this is the St. Patrick's Day murder of Rachel Hurley. And I actually had not heard of this one, so I learned about it as I was doing research. On March 17th, 1990, a 14-year-old girl from Jupiter, Florida's life was violently taken. Rachel Hurley was a force of nature, sassy, strong-willed, and full of life. Her friends remember her spinning on her heel, hair flipping, as she dashed away from them, the very last time they saw her alive. 35 years later, her killer remains unknown.
No.
I know. It's actually really awful. Rachel's case has haunted the Jupiter community, her family, and her friends for more than 3 decades. Her story is one of tragedy, but also of unyielding hope for justice and for answers. Rachel, to her friends, was always the life of the party. She had a way of making everyone around her laugh, whether it was singing "Sweet Child of Mine" at the top of her lungs or dancing with her friends on the beach. She was, as her best friend Sherry would describe her, Miss Sassy Pants. Strong, bossy even, but with a smile that would make it all forgivable. But on that St. Patrick's Day in March, Rachel's life was tragically cut short. It was a normal day at first, just another trip with her friends boating at the Jupiter Inlet. By 2:45 p.m., Rachel was nervous she wouldn't make it back to the shore in time to meet her mom by 3 p.m. The friends docked the boat in Dubois Park and started down the path in Carlin Park that led to where her mom was waiting for her. Her friends Erin and Maddie needed to use the bathroom, and Rachel was worried that if she waited for them, she would be late to meet her mom. So she took off ahead of her friends. Her friends watched her sprint down the path, the last known moments before she vanished. Rachel's mom, Andrea, waited at the park, expecting her daughter to show up as planned. She never did. It didn't take long for concern to turn into fear. Andrea worried that maybe she was supposed to pick her up at another spot or that she had found another ride home. Andrea decided to head home and check to see if maybe Rachel was already there. But when she arrived, there was no sign of Rachel. She raced back to Carlin Park, and at that time, spectators and friends started to search for Rachel. It was around 5 p.m. that they alerted the Palm Beach Sheriff's Office, and they quickly began their search, mobilizing over 100 deputies that included 2 boats, 1 helicopter, 8 mounted deputies, and 3 canine units.
Wow, that's incredible.
Like, not one of those cases, especially in the early 90s, that they were like, she's a runaway, we're not going to do that. No, they were.
Yeah, we need time before we establish that. Yeah.
Yeah, they were like Johnny on the spot with this one.
That's awesome.
3 hours of searching passed before Rachel's body was found by the Palm Beach Sheriff's Office around 8:15 p.m.
She was found by the Palm Beach, by the Sheriff's Office?
She was at around 8:15 that same day in a wooded area of Carlin Park, less than a mile away from where she set off down the path from Dubois Park. Rachel's friends think she took the shortcut through the woods to avoid the sting of the windblown sand on her bare skin. Little did she know, this choice would cost her her life. Rachel had been brutally attacked. She fought for her life, her body covered in defensive wounds. The cause of death, asphyxiation.
No.
It's freaking heartbreaking.
Yeah, that's awful.
The sheriff's department said that their first tip came in from a high school student who had been at the park that day. His description led them to question dozens of people, including homeless men who frequently used the park's wooded areas. But none of it led to an arrest. Over the years, more than 120 men have been tested for DNA, including some who were once suspects. But still, no match. As DNA technology advances, so does the hope that one day they'll find the breakthrough they need. Detective William Springer, now working cold cases, was brought out of retirement in 2013 to work on cold homicide cases, including Rachel's case. He's met with Rachel's family and friends repeatedly, keeping the case alive. We're living. They're living. We've enjoyed things in life, Detective Springer said in a recent documentary. She wasn't able to, and it's not fair. They need to go to jail. Rachel's best friend, Sherry Duff, remembers the day as one that changed her life forever. She was only 13 when she lost her best friend. Sherry had not been on the boat with Rachel that day, but she was at the beach. She remembers the chaos of that day and how she had searched for her for a few hours before her mother convinced her to go home and wait for any news. According to Sherry, when they received the call that they had found Rachel's body, that moment still gives me chills. It's a moment I won't ever forget. Sherry says Rachel was more than just her friend. She was her sister. In a Dateline interview, she told them that she remembers the odd moment just weeks before Rachel's death when they played with the Ouija board at a slumber party. Who doesn't remember playing with those?
Honestly.
They asked, "Who will be the first to die?" And the board spelled out Rachel. Of course, they laughed it off. And Sherry said that in true Rachel form, she yelled out, "Then do it, bitch." Right? Like there's that sassy girl they're all talking about.
I love it.
But Sherry says when they asked for a sign, the house alarm went off. They all froze. It was eerie. And not long after that, Rachel was gone. Which is honestly such a heartbreaking, like fun teenage moment. And that's one of the things that you have to look back on. Yeah. Which probably makes her smile, but at the same time, it is really eerie.
No, it's awful.
For about 15 years, Sherry has been on a quest for justice. She hasn't stopped asking the questions we all have. Who did this to Rachel? Why? And most importantly, who knows something that could finally bring Rachel's killer to justice?
Good for her.
Agreed. Sherry believes someone out there knows something. Someone who was there that day. Someone who saw or heard something. And for 35 years, they've stayed silent. But Sherry's message is clear. No lead is too small. It could be the key that finally brings Rachel's killer to justice. If you were in that park that day, or if you've ever heard something about Rachel's case, please contact the authorities. Your small piece of information might just be what they need. Detective Springer and the Hurley family continue to fight for Rachel's justice, but they need our help. And we need to remember her story, because 35 years may have passed, but Rachel Hurley deserves justice. Her family deserves answers. Rachel's mother, Andrea, last spoke to the press in 2017 at a PBSC press conference. She said, "Our Rachel, to her family, was a feisty, sassy, beautiful girl who made us laugh with her silly antics. She was a force to be reckoned with, a charmer, who we often said could start out with a quarter, travel the world, and return home with change. To her friends, who all lost their innocence on that day 25 years ago, she was curious, optimistic, bossy, a leader, kind, and thoughtful, and just plain cool. Thank you to those friends who love her to this day, who try to make sense of this and tirelessly still try to help find the person who took her from us. I ask that anyone who might have information, no matter how small it may seem, to call the sheriff's office and help us. Isn't that just rip at your soul?
Yeah.
Tragedy struck the Hurley family once again in 2019 when
No.
Rachel's father, Daniel Hurley, unexpectedly passed away while coaching his grandson's lacrosse game,
Oh, that's so sad.
leaving a family already reeling from loss with even more heartbreak. I mean, dagger to the frickin' heart. Honestly, it's just so tragic. If you have any information about Rachel's case, you're encouraged to reach out to the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office at 1-800-458-TIPS or Detective Springer directly at 561-688-4013. There's even a $15,000 reward for information leading to an arrest. If you have any information, no matter how small it may seem, don't stay silent. Let's help bring justice for Rachel Hurley. My sources were NBC News, an article by Andrea Cavalier, Dateline, CBS, and the podcast The Deck.
That's a sad one, too.
It's so sad. And there's really not much information.
Yeah.
But I feel like, just like her friend Sherry is saying, somebody out there saw something. It was a holiday.
I mean, if she fought back that much, then you'd hear her, right?
Yes. And her friends were there. There was beachgoers. It was a park.
Yeah.
I mean, somebody has to know.
The other thing too is, I feel like on cases like this, especially where they, thank God, at least have DNA, there's always the hope that someone's going to do a 23andMe or whatever, and somehow that's going to get traced back.
Especially with the familiar DNA.
Yeah, exactly.
Just like all the old cold cases where these rotten people thought they would never be caught and they were living out their life.
I mean, unfortunately, in a lot of them, they do get to live out their life.
Correct.
And it's not until later but at least there's
But at least
closure.
there is some closure, and that these pieces of shit are caught, because let's just face it, that's what they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I really do hope that.
It's also, I think, in just sharing this story is a reminder to women that, unfortunately, even more so, I think, in this climate,
right,
it is imperative that we look out for each other, that we go places in pairs, that we carry our birdies, which is a personal alarm, that we try to do everything we can to keep ourselves safe. Share your location with your friends. I hate that that's part of what it is to be a woman, or someone from, the LGBT community or something like that. But to be someone that could be preyed upon in this time, I think it's important to remember that we need to look out for each other. I love that her friend Sherry is still out there trying to get justice. That's pretty incredible.
If anything ever happened to you, no one would ever not hear about it.
No.
It'd be on every platform every day. It would, until we found out what happened.
Yeah.
I would never stop.
Yeah. Also, we had a common theme of strong women taken too soon.
True. Yes, we did.
Yeah. Ironically, we're doing that on a male saints day.
Okay, that is ironic. But F the patriarchy, right?
That's right. Fuck the patriarchy. I'll say the F.
Thank you.
All right.
I didn't say the full word, but here we are.
You do say F more often than you do the actual word. Cheese and rice, Autumn.
Oh my goodness. I'm such a bad influence.
You are. You make me say all the swears. See, guys? See? She makes me do it.
Make her out to be the naughty one.
Yep, that's what it is. Just holding my halo up with my horns.
Okay.
All right. Well, we are going to be back next week on Monday for a new episode. So please stay tuned for that. Check out our Instagram page because we will be putting pictures on there from our respective cases. Share with your friends, write reviews. Those are really helpful for us to get the word out.
Yes.
DM us if you have any cases you'd like us to cover. Let us know if you want to be called true crimers. And that's it. We will see you next week. Bye.